Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, offers the visitor an unexpected and vibrant face. Roughly 83% of the more than 2.7 million inhabitants claim to be Christian. Salome went to discover the rapidly growing MKC, the Meserete Christos Church, and how they were impacted by years of persecution.
When I've been asked to go to Ethiopia, I really love the idea of going there to film people to hear their stories. I believe in the power of stories, of people sharing what their experiences are, and also from different countries. I come from France, they are from Ethiopia.
We have almost a million members now, but during persecution we were 5,000.
What interested me in the churches in Ethiopia was what they went through persecution time.
A communist military regime known as the Derg overthrew Emperor Haile Selassie in 1974, leading to an era of imprisonment and persecution of evangelical church members. Forced underground for a decade, MKC grew from 5,000 to 50,000 devoted members.
Those people who came to the Lord during the persecution, those people were really very, very strong people, because they came deciding to die or to get into prison or that kind of thing. Any security person can put you in prison and torture you in the evening, the whole night.
Anticipating persecution, MKC leaders developed a small group infrastructure in preparation for the difficult months and years ahead.
At some point we can gather around 10, but usually 5, 6 people was the common. Because we are afraid maybe the communist government can send spies.
You can't sing loudly. So when we come to the group, you can't come even being two. We just come one by one.
They baptized people in secret. There was an old bathtub in which over 100 people got baptized during the Derg regime.
Some of our leaders, I think maybe 4 or 5 people, went to Russia.
They were searching for the Mennonites in Russia to ask how they resist in the underground movement.
German Mennonites, together with Baptists and other Christians, were persecuted over decades in Russia. Approximately 4.5 million people with a German background emigrated from the former Soviet Union to Germany beginning in 1960. Their story is told at a museum in Detmold in Germany. Today, roughly 42,000 of these immigrants worship in Mennonite and Baptist congregations.
So there were some books, coming into the country from Russia, like the book called Tortured for Christ, how the Russian Christians suffered.
So we drove an hour away from Addis Ababa to meet Esther, an elderly woman, and meeting her was very encouraging to me because just the way she shared her stories about being imprisoned and about passing out Bibles to the prisoners, and as well as just standing very firm in what she believes in.
We were sitting in the prayer room, surrounded by 200 people with guns. They said, "We will kill you." And I said, "No, you cannot kill me, because Jesus is Lord."
She has such a boldness in the way she would speak to the people who would persecute her. And I actually asked her, were you at a certain point afraid? Because when she was talking to me, it didn't feel like she was afraid at all. She said that she was, but it didn't change the way she believed in God.
One day, I scooped up sand with my hands. I prayed to God that the number of Christians and churches would be as many as the grains of sand in my hands. God answered my prayer. Today there are more Christians than I can count.
As with the MKC, freedom of speech and worship came at a price. Colleagues of reformer Ulrich Zwingli in Zurich refused to baptize children. They felt baptism should result from adult choice and commitment to follow Jesus. They became known as Anabaptists, introducing and practicing adult baptism. Persecution started soon after. Felix Manz was the first Anabaptist to be drowned in the river in Zurich. For MKC, the newly established freedoms at the end of the Derg regime allowed them to once again gather openly for worship.
Going to different Mennonite churches in France or going to Ethiopia, I just see this community aspect that I don't see anywhere else.
According to Colossians, we teach and preach and also rebuke that our members to become mature and come into the likeness of his Son, Christ.
They just put the accent on community and learning from each other and teaching each other and encouraging each other. And as well as like prayer time. They do it alone, I'm sure, but they do put an emphasis on praying together and really standing together in faith.
A mature Christian is a person that prays regularly, and MKC has been encouraged its members to have a prayer life.
The young generation are benefiting from this, from all the people that have prayed so much for the church, and it's a reason why the Miserite Christi Church has grown so much. It's because of prayer and prayers from the generation who went through persecution and learned how to pray.
The highest level of Christian maturity is growing to the likeness of Christ. Christian maturity can be determined by the knowledge of the Word of God we have and the determination we have to live towards that Word of God.
When you serve and served, the maturity comes. But if somebody is always sitting in the church and just absorb, I don't think there will be any maturity.
The leaders of the Miserite Christi Church empowered the younger generation to not run the church, but give their ideas so that it grows. And I think it's this empowerment that they have given to the young generation that is helping today the church to grow, because they are the one who are going to lead the church.
Huge population is the young population. So they are the one who are taking responsibility to do so many kind of ministry in worship, in music, and they are very active in church ministry.
I want to write a song that pleases God and humans as well.
The youngsters, they use almost every kinds of instruments available, and this helps to keep them in the church and also for evangelizing the young groups outside the church.
Music today has significantly moved from where it was, at least I think so, in terms of how powerful it is to attract young people. Leaders have been quite helpful in terms of not being narrow and in terms of letting young people explore music to get to the message that they want.
Because we have learned and heard about these stories, why can we not learn from that and be encouraged from that and not wait for persecution, but actually act today and pray with the same faith that Esther had for that kind of thing to happen, for churches to grow and for young people to step up. Tasting the amazing Ethiopian coffee, I was like, wow, that is the best coffee I've ever had. And I found out that it was the birthplace of coffee. I went to a coffee shop in Addis Ababa, and right behind the corner, they were roasting the coffee, sorting it out, and grinding it before brewing it to serve it. The whole process of making coffee takes time, and there's different stages of from the beans that is green to the coffee bean that's being roasted to the coffee bean that's being grounded to finally be beautiful coffee. And I think sometimes as Christian, we are staying in that stage of this green bean that don't have any flavors, that don't have any smell and aroma. But we can go further by being grounded to be able to bear more fruits and be useful to serve God. And for that, you need to be many, many, many beans. And I think that's the beautiful thing about community and the beautiful thing about church is that we get to do that together if we have the desire to let ourselves be grounded.